Man, I'm sleepy, bro.
You got it? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Stay there, checking focus, or just.
You want to check audio?
1 2 1 2 testing 1 2 1 2 1 2 testing 1 2.
Perfect. Okay, Pastor.
100 200 1 2.
We're good to go.
Let's
You're
do it.
looking at me.
Yes.
So, Pastor, tell me what impacted you the most in this trip.
It was a phenomenal trip. I know all the time we say it when we go to an encounter, well, this was the best that we've ever had. But it was really impacting to see how God put a new mantle on Apostle's life. Something new came over him. We saw it by the way that the 5 miracles of the kingdom were demonstrated. The cripple, the deaf, the mute. It was so amazing. So that was one of the main things that impacted us most.
I think compassion is like sometimes I ask people, dame una palabra para escribirlo. Compassion. Talk to us about that atmosphere.
Obviously, sometimes it's hard to tell the people you have to be there in order to experience it. That's why these videos, they make such an impact, because the atmosphere is carried through the screens. But I remember in the midst of all of this, Apostle wearing this mantle, carrying this new thing, demonstrating. There was a moment that he said, the compassion of God is here. All across the altar, there were children of all ages. Their parents will bring them in their arms, crying out desperately, wanting a miracle from God. So the moment he said it, all I could think about was my daughter. She's 7 years old. My son, 11 years old, just as a parent, wanting to receive a miracle from God. And what's most beautiful about it is that many of those parents that were there, they didn't have to go back with their child with the same condition they came in, but they got their miracle. You will see, we will see in the video all across, we still hear the testimonies, children that were healed that moment, eyes that were open in little kids. I actually took myself a testimony of a little girl whose skin was getting very dark because of a kidney failure. The power of God came over that little girl. Her skin began to clear. I know for the fact that God had given that little girl a brand new kidney. So all across the stage, all across the altar, miracles were happening in those kids. The atmosphere was unforgettable. So were the faces of those little boys and girls wanting to receive a miracle from God.
I know one of the miracles that impacted you the most was a little boy that was blind and the mom prayed for him. And I think the impact is not only the miracle, but the fact that people all over the world are being activated to pray for others. And
Yes. Usually when we go in these encounters, to me, one of my favorite moments is when every single believer in there is activated. I remember Ethiopia, we saw 1 million plus people. The most exciting parts in these encounters is when the people catch a movement. How can you tell someone caught the movement? The moment they begin to do exactly what Apostle is doing from the stage. The moment that they believe they can do what we do. The moment they believe they can do what Apostle is doing. And that's the way we saw it in that mother. She caught the movement and she went and laid hands on her child that had been blind. He was completely blind for over 2 years. The power of God came over that child. His eyes were open and he was in that stage running behind Apostle, running as we were taking the testimony. We were telling, follow us now. He was running in the stage. You could see that God had clearly, through the activation in the mother's life, through the power of God flowing on her mother's life, the little kid, God opened his eyes after being blind for over 2 years.
So we know obviously that Apostle has been called to bring the supernatural power of God to this generation. But for someone who knows nothing about these events, and they might be hearing about this for the first time, what is our purpose in going to these nations?
God spoke to Apostle many years ago and he told him, son, take my supernatural power to this generation. Every time we go into those encounters, we want to make sure that everyone who's in there, they catch the movement of the supernatural. We want to make sure that everyone can know, Jesus said it, and these signs shall follow those who believe. We want to make sure every believer in there will be activated. Every believer will know they have the power to cast out demons, to heal the sick, to raise the dead. And then it fills our hearts with joy and is a sign, is proof that these believers have caught the movement and they are believing the word and they doing what the word says. So our mission every time we go, Apostles' mission is to be able to take the supernatural into those countries now, especially Asia, been open from all across the world now into nations that are so far away here from home, but it's a sign that they are moving in what Apostle moves. They are catching the movement and they are running with it all across the world.
And before we go to the numbers, you go on a lot of trips, which means you get to see wonderful things around the world, but that also means that you're sacrificing time with your kids and with your family. What's your reward?
Many years ago, I remember I was in a supernatural encounter, and we had been away from home for a long time. And then I said, well, I told God, I said, God, I miss my family. We've been away for, I actually just left on that encounter. And my daughter was like, Daddy, you're leaving again. And in the encounter, I was remembering that moment, but the Lord spoke to me very clearly. I remember laying my head on the vehicle we were driving, and the Lord spoke to me. He said, son, the most secure place where your family can be, where you can be, is in the center of my will. I know this encounter in Myanmar was God's will. So there can't be any other place where my family, my kids, myself will be more secure than in the center of the will of God, which is this encounters every time God speaks to Apostle. So I know my children are secure there, my family is secure there, my purpose is secure there, so I have nothing to fear. That is my reward, that I know that God takes care of my life, takes care of my family, takes care of our ministry, and He guarantees if we are in the center of His will, He's going to pay the bills, He's going to take care of it, He's going to make sure that we are rewarded in a very, very special way. So that is my reward, to know that I am in the center of God's will and knowing that He's taking care of myself, taking care of my family, taking care of everything we love and we treasure most.
Okay. And lastly, for the numbers so people understand the scope of the reach that we're having, if you could, so we could have it for the VO, the attendance, the salvations, the miracles. It was over 300 miracles, 30,000 in attendance, 15,000 salvations.
I think that many people who watch this video now, they are investors in the kingdom, partners that have partnered with us. And when you hear that we went to a nation very far away from home and there were 15,000 souls getting saved, perhaps someone says, well, I invested, I gave my money, I couldn't go, but I sowed a seed. Can I tell you that the seed that you sow is going to have an eternal impact in your life, in your finances, in the finances of those who sowed? Because every single one of those souls, every single one of those 300 plus documented miracles, it occurred, it happened because someone sowed into this encounter. Someone gave. If I was someone, an investor that is watching now, there is no price on those souls. And what a rewarding thing to know that the money that you gave, the money that people gave, it was to change those lives. It was, again, it's not that we buy a miracle, but those finances made the eyes of that little boy to be open. It made the souls, 15,000 souls that are not going to hell, they're going to go to heaven. The people that sold, the people that gave, they will have an eternal reward for it. So speaking about those numbers, investors, they know about numbers, business people, they know about numbers. 15,000, let's say you perhaps sold maybe $10,000, $15,000. That's $1 a soul. My goodness, what a greater reward. So thank you very much. This has been one of the most powerful encounters, a place where we can say there was a new mantle that came upon Apostle's life, a new dimension of favor that is even touching those who gave, even touching those that are watching. So our lives will be forever changed.
Okay, Pastor, I'm going to give you this so you could see some of the numbers, just because you know that at the end Dad likes the rundown. And
okay.
You will be in B-roll, just kind of like to give us the scope of the summary of the impact. The attendance, the testimonies, the salvations, as you give it to us, just so we could put it all together.
Okay. You want me to read it or just say it?
You could say it. I just you're not going to be on camera, so you could look at it
okay.
and not worry about it.
Perfect. So our team documented 307 miracles, some of them the most impacting ones, over 50 healings of people who were either deaf, blind, or mute, 13 people who couldn't walk and got up from their wheelchairs, 15,000 salvations, and 30,000 plus in attendance who were activated to move in God's supernatural power.
Thank you. Danny?
Yes.
Good?
We're good to go.
Anything else? Pastor, thank you so much.
We're